Let's start today in seated. And we'll begin by sitting tall, like there's a silk thread being pulled up through your spine. The rest of your body relaxed. Feeling your breath flow in and flow out. As you feel your breath flow in and out, begin to create a tidal breath. You inhale as if filling up a tide, filling up from the floor on upward. You exhale, tide falls from the sky downwards. Take your time. When you have a strong tide, you can begin to let your arms be buoyant so that as the tide rises, your arms can float up on the rising tide. And as the tide falls, your arms can float down on the falling tide. Take just a few cycles to instill a patience into your body, waiting for the tide to float your arms. The next time that you're inhaling and your arms are floating up on the rising tide, interlock your thumbs together and keep inhaling with interlocked thumbs. A little bit of tension as you pull your thumbs against each other, just slightly. Keep inhaling. And on your exhale, draw a golden arc out through your thumbs around your body, landing your arms down. 3 meditative breaths. Beginning today at the round of Shiva's wheel, establish your tidal breath. When the tide is established, let your inhale float both arms up in the air. With a soft fist and thumbs pointed toward the sky. We'll begin with a round of 20 Kapalabhati breaths and begin. 3 more. And then take a full inhale, interlocking both thumbs together. Hold the inhale or keep inhaling, creating a pressurized breath. Feel welcome to keep the hold so long as your breath does not strain. As you're ready, on your exhale, let both arms float down, drawing the golden arc around your body. When your hands land to the bottom, come to 3 meditative breaths. Feel welcome to continue to tune into the silence and the stillness. Or if you wish to join me with 3 ohms, begin with hands at heart center. From your next inhale, letting the last vibration move right into your third eye. One more. If the urge to move comes from a place in you that just kind of like has to stay busy, I encourage you to pause for a moment, check in. Is there a way to move to a different place where you could be in stillness, but you could also be in fine attunement to unwinding tensions? And let it be this place that takes you into your next spot, whether that spot be continue to sit in stillness or to begin to come to 4s or another position to start to unwind tensions. And we'll take our time. We'll take 2 minutes here of free exploration of stillness, or of unwinding tensions. If you can move out of the space where it's like the part of you that has to like check your phone or has to do something just like out of a nervous tick, if you can find that deeper space to move from, then usually in this space, your body will guide you. Something will resonate in the stillness, or will resonate in the release and the following of unwinding tensions. And the nice thing about yoga is that we don't have to be in that space. If we're just not on a given day, that's okay. We just experiment and move or sit still or child's pose or downward dog or stretch somewhere, and just we see how our body responds. Continue to follow your body. We will join together in downward dog in 30 seconds. If there's a last bit of stillness that you crave, or perhaps some movement or stretch space, this is a good time to go there. Upon joining together in downward dog, find the rhythmic space of your breath. That's always the first step. And then if you can find the rhythmic space, it makes it easier to find the tidal space. If you find the tidal space, it makes it easier to find Wu Wei, which is this space of, oftentimes translated as non-doing doing or effortlessness, but really is like being in the zone. As you establish your breath with a tidal breath, the next time the tide falls on your inhale and the lifting tide, let your right leg float up on that tide, floating up in the air, and then float it down, forward, and through between your two hands, coming into a lunge with your left knee down on the floor. Feel welcome to pat if you like. Establish, at the very least, a breath of even rhythm, of full in and out, though ideally lunge as if a tidal breath at the bottom of a pool. And the next time your lungs empty and the pool drains, on your inhale, let your whole body be floated up on the rising tide. And with a patient body, wait for the tide and let your body float down on the falling tide down toward the floor. Wait for the inhale and the rising tide to be lifted by it, to float up again. And the falling tide to be floated down toward the floor again in its support. One more breath cycle, being lifted by the tide and floating down on the tide. And once you land down to the floor, step your left foot forward out to the top of your mat, gently coming into an easy, easy, easy forward bend, softening. If you have back trouble in the ragdoll, bend your knees more. You're welcome to take some movement here. If you like, some people like that, though, it can be a little bit risky if you got some funkiness in your back. Next inhale, step back with your right leg, right knee down to the ground or padding in the low lunge. Let your lungs empty first, and on your next inhale, as the rising tide comes up, let your body be floated by the tide. And on your exhale, allow your body to be floated down on the falling tide. 2 more cycles. Establish the space of a patient body, getting around the tendency of a nervous tick that many of us have to get somewhere. Let yourself be lifted by your breath. And when you next land, step forward once again toward the top of your mat, beginning to ease into the backs of your legs. If your hamstrings are like mine, they're a little stubborn. You may wish to go real easy, just kind of barely working in and waking up the fibers of the hamstrings. At first, you wake up the fibers near the skin, and then you start to work in a little deeper, closer to the bone, waking up the fibers in there, getting it ready for the opening up to come. Take another breath here on the forward bend. And with your next inhale, step back with your left leg, bringing your left knee down to the floor in a low lunge. Let your lungs empty first, and on your inhale, let a rising tide float your body up. Your exhale, then the tide, then fall on the tide down. And 2 more cycles. As if your body were barely doing anything. Just waiting for the tide. Your strong breath creates the lifting and falling tide. When you next land to the floor, we're going to do that tricky transition here to stargazer. So you're going to lift your left foot off the ground, knee stays on the floor, and then walk your hands over to your left, going all the way to the back of your mat. So you're in a straight line, left hand, left knee, right foot, and straighten out your right leg to come into stargazer pose. You're welcome to prop it up if you want to put a block underneath your left hand. You're welcome to simply stay in the stillness of the shape, which can be very calming to the body. or you can use it to bring the stretch where your body would like it to go. Channeling your breath, start with a full inhale. And on your exhale, use your core strength together with a strong exhale to rise up. And then keep moving over to your right. So you're starting to lift your left ribs up to the sky. And begin gently at first, since this is the beginning of the practice, so gently at first, beginning to caress your breath up into the gaps of muscle in your left side body. Right? Notice there's often a rate at which our body accepts the breath. And so we want to work with our body wherever it is at in its acceptance of the breath. So taking one more inhale into your left side body. On your exhale, allow the falling tide to float you back down towards Stargazer and continue being moved by your breath. So your inhale rising tide floats your left side up. And it's like there's a little flotation part on your left side body that then as the exhale and falling tide comes, it floats you down. And as you inhale and the tide rises up, it floats you back up again to side gate before floating you back down to Stargazer. When your left hand next meets the floor, bring your right hand next to it. Now, if you want to play with a little more core strength here, you can hover your left knee up just barely, like a millimeter off the mat, right? You can go right back to plank too, but if you want to play with the core strength, you move slowly and hover your knee just barely off the mat and very, very slowly creep your left foot back toward the plank position until you get into a full inhale. From that full inhale, lower down, knees to the floor, come all the way down to your belly. You can take a pause here if you like. We'll come into choice of back bend in a moment, where you can go light like a sphinx or a cobra, or you can go more dynamic like a swimming cobra or moving cobra, or you can go stronger like cobra or upward dog. So when you're ready, you're gonna use your inhale to lift and grow up through your chest, coming into 5 breaths, your choice of back bend, be it dynamic or still or strong or light, right? Follow your body. Notice your body. Sometimes it's very energized, wants to go strong. Sometimes it is not ready to accept certain elements yet. It may crave movement or just crave easy breath. So here in your back bend, breathe with intention and take a full breath into your rib cage, filling up your lungs all the way. On your next exhale, let the wave come from front of your mat backward to take you back to downward dog. Establish your meditative breath, your rhythmic breath, your tidal breath, tide floating up and down. Your right leg as the buoyant leg. The next time you exhale and the tide falls, on your inhale, let the rising tide float your right leg up in the air before floating it down, forward, and through to come into the lunge. Left knee down on the mat, floor, or padding. Let your lungs empty first. Establish the tide. The tide falls on your exhale. And on your inhale, let your whole body be floated up by the tide. And this time, crest the wave, which is to say, keep inhaling, keep growing out of your center. Keep inhaling, keep growing out of your center. And then strong exhale to cactus. Pausing in cactus. Just going for the quadricep stretch. So if you find it helpful to lengthen the muscle to reach back, grab your foot, feel welcome to do so. If you're already getting all the stretch you want, then you're doing great. Just continue to strong cactus, expansive body, and steady breath down toward your left side waist. There's a way to work with all these in a way the body accepts, right? If you try to force your breath all the way down to your left knee, the body starts to tense. It starts to begin to narrow itself, but it begins to open itself the more that you work with your breath down, but in a way that's not forcing, wu wei, finding that balance of effort with effortlessness. From your next inhale, use your exhale to bring both hands down to the floor, floating down. Lift your left foot up, keeping your left knee down, and pivot on it as you walk your hands over to your left, coming into Stargazer. Left hand, left knee, right foot all line up. This is a great pose for following your body. Sometimes your body craves more of just simplicity and stillness, perhaps even just like a simple, steady breath, almost like this is a meditation position. It might wish for more of a twist to emphasize the push of the block or the floor backward to get the twist, or more of a back bend. Follow the body as you breathe. And starting with a full inhale, use your exhale, core strength in unison to rise up with power, lifting up long through your left side body to come into goddess pose. And then continue to focus your breath into your left side body. You may find the muscles a little bit more like a sponge accepting water than the last time that you were here. You can now bring a fuller and stronger breath, but the tissues may also have their limits. So breathing with a quality of power and intention and direction, to what degree the body accepts, because we also breathe with a quality of gentleness and ease. This is wu wei. Now, taking in one more inhale. On your exhale, let the falling tide float you back down to Stargazer, and let your breath continue to lead you on your inhale, rising tide to float up to side gate. Now you can keep the movements nice and easy, nice and gentle as you exhale and float down to Stargazer again. Or you can begin to work with a little more pressurized breath, which is as you inhale and float up at the top, you keep inhaling in your chest, keep inhaling in your side body, keep lifting out of your center, and then make a strong exhale as you move towards Stargazer. Again, follow the body. Sometimes one technique really fits on a day and another doesn't. And sometimes it even changes motion to motion. Follow your body. The next time that your left hand lands down to the floor, bring your right hand next to it. You can step right back to plank, or if you want to play with your core strength a little bit, then begin to play with the hover just barely off the ground. And if you really want to kind of play with it a little bit, which you do not have to, but you can begin to try to keep your knee like a millimeter from the ground as slow as possible, step your way back to plank pose. And from plank pose, taking a full inhale, use your exhale to lower to chaturanga. If you go below that, drop your knees down to the ground and take 3 breaths. Choice of back bend here: Sphinx, Cobra, Winding Cobra, or Upward Facing Dog. Use your 3rd breath in the back bend to inhale strong to your chest, and your exhale, the wave from the front of your mat back to move back to downward dog. Take 3 meditative breaths and downward dog. Establishing the rising and falling tide. The next time that you exhale and the tide falls, let your left leg be buoyant and be lifted by your inhale and the rising tide. And then floating it down, forward and through into your lunge position with your right knee down on the floor or padding. Establish your breath as a tidal breath. Your body is patient and floating on the breath. So the next time you exhale, you inhale and your patient body floats up on the rising tide. And you can keep it gentle like this with your exhale floating down on the falling tide. That's a little bit more calming effect. Or you can begin to crest the wave if you want to move some energy. It's an option. It's not necessary, but the crest of the wave would be to keep inhaling at the top, keep growing out of your center, and then from your center, a full commitment exhale down like a or a sighing breath, following your body one more cycle. And when you land to the floor next, pick up your right foot, walk your hands to your right, so you're going to pivot around to Stargazer. Follow your body. It may be time to just enjoy the form. Real simple form. Staying with your meditative breath. Your body may crave more of a twist or back bend or more spinal movement here. General rule in yoga is follow your body, and the follow starts with breath, as breath is what brings the deeper part of our mind and our body together. Starting with your next inhale, fill up a little bigger, a little fuller. And on your exhale, use your core strength together with your exhale to rise up and begin lifting up long through your right ribs to the sky, coming into gate pose or side gate pose. As you breathe into your right side, you're always attuning your breath. If you breathe into your right side and it feels almost like a ball bouncing off a wall, right? Just kind of your breath just bounces off of the tissue, then you may begin to tone down your breath a lot, begin to make it more gentle, more easy to work with the tissues in your body. Though if the tissues are accepting your breath, you can begin to amplify it, to begin to breathe with more potency. We're always attuning in those two ends of breath. And led by your breath, from your next inhale, on your exhale, let the tide float you back down to Stargazer. And then continue these sideways movements led by the rising tide. The falling tide, particularly if you're enjoying just the ease and the calming of just keeping it just straight on with every breath floating on the tide, then keep it straight on. If you have the instinct to move energy, and usually that instinct, you'll feel it like in your gut somewhere, right? If you feel that instinct, then you keep inhaling, keep growing at the top, and then exhale, cleansing or sighing breath on the way down. And sometimes you experiment to find out. Now, the next time that you land your right hand down to your mat, plant your left hand next to it. You can step right back to plank or play with the lift and the slow creep back to plank pose. Breathing in deeply. On your exhale, float down to chaturanga or knees down to come down to the floor. Use your inhale to float up and lift, filling up full in your chest space. Keep inhaling, and then exhale, wave from front to back, moves you back to downward dog. 3 meditative breaths in downward dog. Gentle bend in your knees. On your next inhale, walk or hop your feet to your hands. Coming into more of a warmed up forward bend, you may in fact have very stubborn hamstrings that still need some waking up, in which case find the spots that have not woken up yet. Focus on getting into those. But once they have wakened up, begin to energize a little more spaciousness, a little more potency into the areas that are ready to open, lifting your sit bones up toward the sky and wide as you rock your weight slightly forward So that as you lift your sit bones up and wide and grow your heels down toward the floor, there's an expansiveness and a live quality to the forward bend. Connecting to your breath from your next exhale, use your inhale, the rising tide, to float on it up the standing. The falling tide to let both arms float down either through heart center or to your side. A moment of pause, samastiti. Now we're going to create a blanket roll next. There's a lot of props that you can make shift at home that will substitute for this, like a rolled up towel block will work. Actually, like basically like any household object will work for this. But we're going to do like a calf stretch. So in yoga prop land, the way that we do this is we roll up a blanket like so. And, place the blanket down on the mat. You can unroll it to make it less intense. You can roll it thicker to make it more intense. But you're going to step on the roll with the ball of your feet on the roll, your heels on the mat. Yeah, sometimes you got to step on it to get a sense of exactly, right? Where's the woo way? Where's the too much, not too little, and so on. So next time you exhale, let your inhale float both arms up to the sky, and led by your breath, float your way down into the forward bend on the roll. Notice as you get into this variation of the stretch, is there a gripping in your body? Is there a way your body just suddenly like clams up or tenses up? If so, find a way to rock your weight to let off of the stretch a little bit so that your body may find acceptance. Work with your body. Your body actually wants to accept the poses. It loves them. But we have to work with our body to find that zone where it can get into the space of accepting the pose. And if it is accepting the pose, yeah, feel welcome to rock a little more forward or a little more back. Find the space to bring more opening. Bring it with you. 3 more breaths. Now with your next exhale, gently bend your knees a little bit so you can take the roll out of the way without too much trouble. And then make your way back to plank. We're just going to hold plank for about 10 seconds here and start with a full breath into your chest. You're going to keep inhaling and then a quick breath of fire, which all of you know is like Kapulabhati, but you can go through the mouth and really fast. And so it goes in and out, just 10 seconds, go. And then take a full inhale to stop it. Take a full inhale, keep inhaling, keep inhaling, keep inhaling, and then exhale strong back to downward dog. 3 meditative breaths. Establish your tidal breath. Your left leg as the buoyant leg. Next time the tide falls, on your inhale at the rising tide, float your left leg. And your falling tide, float your leg down, forward, and through into the lunge. Your right knee down on padding or the ground in the low lunge. Once you establish your tidal breath, on your inhale, let it float you up. Now we're going to crest the wave here as we float on up. Keep inhaling at the top. Keep growing out of your center. Keep inhaling. And then exhale strong to cactus arms. If you'd like a little more stretch in your right leg, feel welcome to reach back and grab your foot. All the tools we have, be they breath, breathing down to your right side down, or be it the range of motion that you choose in a pose, in this case, whether you pick your right foot up or not, They're all tools to bring aliveness and openness into the body. And so find the line where your body will bring it in. Take it in. We don't want to be so gentle. We're not giving our body everything we can. But we also want to have that gentleness so the body does not become hardened. And so taking one more inhale. On your exhale, bring both hands down inside of your left foot. Walk your hands over to your right as you pivot on your knee. So your right foot comes off the ground. Pivot around to stargazer. Whether you go twist, back bend, or just simply use it almost like a meditation position. Follow your body. With a deep inhale, keep inhaling, and then use your exhale together with your core strength to rise up to side gate. As you open up your right side body and side gate, play with the mixture, and it's even can change every breath, a mixture of gentleness of breath, where your muscles can absorb your breath, a mixture of gentleness of breath with potency and direction. Every breath is a play of these two forces, yin and yang. Letting your breath lead the motion. From your next inhale, on your exhale, let the falling tide float you back down to stargazer. And take 3 more cycles led by your breath, where you can keep it nice and even waves, which has a more calming effect if you're following your breath, following the attunement of the tide. Or you can crest the wave, which is more energetic, cleansing movement, where you keep inhaling, keep growing at the top, and then use your center together with your committed exhale, like a lion's breath, or like a sighing breath. 2 more cycles. The next time that your right hand returns to the floor, we'll return to the choose your own adventure of plank pose. But I would like to play on the challenge edge of this time. It's the last time we're really going to work that strong in a plank pose. So if we're working on the challenge edge, right, you can go straight back to plank and just hold it, or just hold the hover position. And pay close attention to your breath in the hover position. Does your breath get strained, or can you continue to keep the qualities of gentleness with the quality of full range of breath in and out at the same time? Keeping those qualities as you very, very slowly creep your foot back, keeping it very tight to the floor. It's actually much, much more difficult to keep it tight to the floor than it is to suddenly lift and step back from plank pose. On your next exhale, downward dog, child's pose, or flow through. If you flow through, use your remaining energy to focus on letting the breath tide move you. And either come to child's pose to rest, or come to downward dog as if it were a 10 breath meditation position. Feeling your breath rise and fall, as well as the other rhythms of your body. We're going to make our way soon to camel. This will be our only camel of the day. So when you're ready, you can get there into kneeling, though if you prefer wheel pose, you're welcome to do that. Everyone on this class is quite experienced, so I trust you to gauge your body here in the first and only set of the back bend on when to go for the big bend and when actually to be a little more disciplined and a little more steady and a little more gentle to your low back through strength. So if you're setting up camel pose, go ahead and bring your arms into cactus or fallen cactus, drawing your shoulders back and leading with the lift of your heart. If you're setting up for wheel pose, go ahead and feel welcome to draw your shoulder blades into your back as you plant your hands and keep your shoulder blades planted in as you push your way up into wheel. Now, camel, you have a little more freedom than wheel to work with the amount of bend. And so if you're playing with not very much bend today, that is okay. But I encourage you to still play with lots of strength, lots of lift of your chest and heart, a powerful expansiveness of your low back, lifting the back of your lower rib cage off the back of your waist. And if you are working with camel, here we go, 6 more breaths. You can gauge the amount of bend you would like to take, but if you bend more, lengthen more. Become the magic yoga body. Most objects shorten as they bend. The magic yoga body gets bigger as it bends. The more it bends, the longer it gets. Now, 2 more breaths. So if you are holding something back, perhaps just to conserve energy, this is the time to go there. Breathe deeply into your chest and keep inhaling. And on your next exhale, draw your inner thighs back to come up. Gently rest back, child's pose, or if you prefer a meditative seat, to come to pause. So feel the rhythms of your body and notice that there are ways you can let the rhythms ripple more through you. For a few more moments, let your breath do whatever it wants to do. Which might be your breath may be begging you for some activity on your part to fully inhale and exhale. We're going to take just a moment to take any neutralizing that would be helpful, but we're going to quickly get to downward dog within 3 breaths. So before downward dog, if there is some cat rolls that would be helpful, or just a quick leg cross on one side or the other, or just a little sideways movement is good. That would be helpful. Do that here. And make your way to downward dog in your next breath or 2. Once you get to downward dog, energize the pose, which I know that you all know how to do. It's not necessary to do in every single pose, like max it out, but there are certain moments where it's helpful. And this is one of those where it is helpful to max it out, to draw biceps, triceps to the teres, to spread your toes and energize your body so that you're lifting your inner thighs and outer hips toward the back wall ceiling, and you're growing your lower rib cage toward your inner hand. And you begin to bring this space to your spine. And once you feel the space grow, then begin to expand it into areas where it doesn't naturally go. Begin to even it out more fully, yes, through your torso, making more of a consistent space, more of a hum of space, and continue that nice tone of space that you're making. Breathe and create your tidal breath, floating up and down, letting your right leg be buoyant. So the next time that you exhale, the tide falls. On your inhale, let the rising tide float your right leg up on it. Float it down with the falling tide and forward up toward your left hand to pigeon, or alternate version of hip rotator opening that you might be choosing. And once you get there, land. Come to a place of pause, which might be a relaxing forward. And pick a calming breath that is easy to do, that is very, very not forced. The advanced practice is always finding Wu Wei, effortless effort. And so it can be very simple, like just focusing on your exhale, or a nice slow blowing of your exhale out your mouth. You can get fancier with diaphragmatic breath, breathing down. Just be sure to check in that whatever breath you choose is not forced. Just simply being able to do a technique. If there's a little bit of force in it, we oftentimes are doing something more advanced in our head when that happens, but our body isn't really getting the full ripple effect. Four more breaths. Now, if you do want to come out early so you can do some hip circles or some hip releases, feel welcome to do that. And then switch sides, left leg into pigeon. Your breath can be as simple as just rounding your mouth and making a slow exhale out through your mouth. Choose a breath that is a calming technique breath. Where the power of the breath is without force. 6 more breaths. If you do want to come out early to release your hip, you're welcome to do so. When you make your way out of pigeon, we'll come directly into a back stretch. So you're welcome to come into plow. If you want more dynamic movement, you may wish to do some cat rolls or leg crosses, or rabbit or tripod cat, which is basically rabbit, just hands interlocked into a tripod. 6 breaths. We're all pretty practiced in this, so we're just going to, without pause, roll up into a seat, cross-legged or kneeling. And on an inhale, float both arms up in the air. On your exhale, turn to your right to come into a twist. Now, if your timing is a little off mine, that's no problem. If you want to spend a little more time on this side, use your inhale as you're ready to float and unwind the twist, and exhale to the other side. Let your breath lead you. Your inhale to unwind, your exhale to return. Take your time in stillness. Follow your body. When your body is ready, Shavasana. So you feel your breath rise and fall. Feel welcome to follow your body. And so for you, you can follow your body and follow your life needs. If you have nowhere else to go and your body would really like to stay here, please feel welcome to follow that. You do not have to transition. If you are in a time container or it feels time to end the practice, you can begin to deepen your breath, begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, begin to transition from stillness to movement. Whether you spend one other moment on your side or a little more time at your seat. We'll come together to close. If you're remaining in Shavasana, you can simply enjoy the Om and have a lovely evening. If you'd like to join me in the Om, we'll close with one together.